Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I am back in Garwood. I upgraded the service here several years ago. There's a video of that. I'll post it in the description. But today we're here to get started on a generator install. As you can see, I've got the generator in place, although it still needs to be leveled. But today we'll be installing this transfer switch, okay, which becomes the whole house disconnect, or the main disconnect, the service disconnect, and we're going to put it right beside this meter. So if you like this kind of content, be sure to watch this video to the end. And as always, thanks for coming back and watch this video. Let's get to it. So you guys might remember this video. This is the Garwood 200 amp upgrade I did in 2022. And knowing that the customer told me that we would be doing a generator at some point, I didn't know when. So I kind of semi-prepared for that. And if this property looks different, it's because I was there probably about a year ago removing a bunch of the old solar equipment that was there, and she got the siding redone, which really looks nice. This here is the new pack out roller, which I'm very excited to use, and this is the first time I'm actually using it on the job. The tool I'm using here is a knockout kit by Green Lee called the Slug Buster, and basically it's a ratcheting wrench, as you can see here, and it's going to cut out a perfect 2-inch hole. Now you could use other means to do this, like a carbon bit, 2-inch bit, and you've seen me use in other videos, but for some reason I broke this thing out. So what you need to do is drill at least a 1/2-inch hole so that the arbor can actually fit in that hole, and then you push the top side and the cutting side together and use this ratcheting wrench to make your perfect hole. This is a 2-inch male adapter, which is standard for any 200 amp size work. We probably could have used 1.5 inches here, but I have 2-inch in stock, and that's what I prefer using. So this male adapter, I'm going to connect this to the piece of conduit between the meter and the transfer switch here. And I wind up actually taking this out shortly and realizing that I need to use a 2-inch offset male adapter, which is going to give me a little bit of room for where I made my knockout right here, so that it can go into the side of the transfer switch. You can see there, I have it set up and I realize that it's the wrong one. So now I'm going to use this little offset so that my piece of conduit between the two will actually be even. Then of course I use the LB and a prefab 90-degree sweep, and I marked where I approximately wanted my conduit to enter into the transfer switch. And what the transfer switch does is it actually transfers between the utility power supplying the panel in the basement, the load, and of course the generator source. And so once your utility power goes out, there's a countdown timer clock within the transfer switch here, or rather inside the generator, which alerts the generator that power's been lost. The generator starts, and then when it's ready and able to deliver the power, it'll transfer the load through the transfer switch. And so here what I'm doing is cutting a 2-inch nipple. Well, it's actually a piece of 2-inch PVC between the meter and the transfer switch. And why I didn't buy a bandsaw 30 years ago and use one, I don't know, but I love using it now. You've seen me using this before. And of course, don't forget to put the glue on and try to be neat with the glue. Try not to get it all over the conduit so it looks like hell later on once it dries. As you can see, I'm turning the PVC piece of PVC here right above the bottle of glue so I don't get glue all over the place. It's also important to turn the work here so it gets it adheres to the male adapter really well. And there you see the the box level falling off of the transfer switch, because the transfer switch is actually made of aluminum, so there's no magnetic properties there. Alright, so there you see the 2-inch male adapter. Now I'm going to run a 3-inch lag screw, an 1/4-inch lag screw to mount this transfer switch. And the lag screws are pretty new. I enjoy using them. I used them on the service upgrade video that I'll be putting out pretty soon for my straps. And so I'm really a big believer now, because the head of the lag screw actually covers up the hole within the strap, and it's a little more heavy duty. And so since I'm new using these lag screws, I got to figure out how to use them. And what I think I'm going to do in the next time I need to use these is use the deep well impact drivers that I have by Milwaukee, so that there's less wiggling around. That was a nut driver, and so the head of the lag screw just sits inside that nut driver. And as far as stabilizing the screw as you're trying to attach it to the work, you saw it wobbling around right there. I think I can fix that next time. And of course, you guys know my secret here. Somebody else showed me this. I'm sure a lot of electricians use this. I'm putting duct seal to wedge my fender washer to the lag before putting it in here. So when I apply the lag screw to the transfer switch here to the work, the duct seal will be behind, wedged in between the surface inside the transfer switch and the actual washer itself, making this extra precautionary watertight. If you're an electrician, let me know in the comments what you do if you do something similar to this to make it as watertight as possible. There's the lag screw that I'm using. I had a little difficult time. I believe there's old asbestos siding behind this vinyl siding that's there. So sometimes getting through that could be difficult. And I didn't drill any pilot holes to do that, which maybe in hindsight I should have done, but I didn't. But these lag screws hold this to the house real nice. I like this so much better than the number 10 corrosion resistant screws that I normally use. But of course, these lag screws cost a little bit more money, but I think it's worth it in the long run. Let me know what you think about the lag screws in the comments, and maybe an alternate means that you would use for asbestos siding that's behind the vinyl siding right here. The new vinyl siding at this house really makes the house look nice compared to what they had there and all the old solar equipment. And by the way, all the old solar equipment was removed from the roof, and of course we removed it from the side of the house here from when we did the service upgrade. This is a really nice job, and it's a friend of the family who I actually grew up with, and they're real good friends, and I appreciate their business over and over. And of course, their referrals for a lot of the work that I do in Westfield comes from these people, so I'm very grateful. Thank you. So in order to accomplish wiring this transfer switch, what I need to do is I need to take out the feed that comes from the meter into the main breaker inside this panel, because now the main breaker in this panel is actually, it's going to become what's known as a main lug only panel. Even though we're going to keep the main circuit breaker in there, it's technically not the main breaker. So what we need to do is we need to run a 4-wire into this panel, and we need to separate our grounds and neutrals to prevent any objectionable current flow on our equipment grounding conductors throughout the house. So that's the purpose of getting this old cable out of there and putting the new 4-wire cable into this enclosure between it and the transfer switch.
Rockstars.
Sirius XM Rock Bar is one of my favorite channels to listen to when I bring my AirPods to work. But on this day, I forgot to bring my AirPods, so I had to use the radio. I mean, who can work without a radio, right? I mean, I guess I could, but I choose not to. So that's why some of the footage in this video is silent. All right, anyway, here I'm using, as you can see, the 2-inch PVC LB and the 2-inch PVC sweep, and then I'm using an expansion coupling to make it easier for me to get this male adapter into where it needs to go. It's also going to accommodate any expansion of that PVC from hot temperatures. It's also going to tell me where to make my hole in the transfer switch for my load that goes down to the electrical panel in the basement. And when I say load could mean, you know, the main breaker panel down in the basement. It could also mean the sub panel or several sub panels in a property. The load is just the electrical consumed by the customer or whatever building you're working, whether it's a building or a dwelling like this, a house. So load is load, and this particular generator is I think a 2219, so it's a 19,000 kilowatts provided with natural gas. The expansion coupling is required where 2 points are fixed. So should that conduit get heated or hot and expand, the expansion coupling will help that along. And so the new main disconnect for this property is here in this transfer switch, which is why we're running a 4-wire between the transfer switch and the load in the basement, or rather the power, the customer load we'll call it. And so here I'm just terminating my conductors from the load. I fished them through the 2-inch PVC sweep and the expansion coupling up into the bottom of the transfer switch. It's always nicer to come into the bottom when you can. It's not always possible, but this house has the panel down in the basement, so I'm able to fish this wire, bring this wire up into the bottom of the enclosure below the live parts, which makes things a lot more watertight. So I'm going to terminate these conductors into the meter on the right hand side there. The line side is still hot, so I didn't break out the extension ladder and disconnect the power up at the top at the service point, but rather I just pull the meter. And then once you pull that meter, there's no longer power going to the load side. So I got to be careful about what I'm doing here. I have a permit for this work. I also have an electrical license for this work. I do understand the dangers of arc flash and how this thing will keep burning should there be a fault. I totally get that. In my last video, people got really upset that I was doing this stuff barehanded, but I've been doing it like this forever. I do understand what arc flash is, and I do 34 hours of continuing education every 3 years. So I sit inside seminars constantly, understanding arc flash better and better each time as I get older and older in this trade. One of the things I also have to do is I need to extend both of my grounding electrical conductors, and in this case there was 3. There was two individual conductors going to each of the ground rods, and then of course the water main, which is the number 2 aluminum. They both had to be extended, and that's what I'm doing here. I am crimping and extending one of my ground rod electrical conductors so it's long enough to go into the main disconnect here at the transfer switch. So here you have 2 choices. You can either extend the grounding electrical conductor as I'm doing here with an irreversible crimp, or run a whole new grounding electrical conductor. You cannot splice this with a wire nut or a split bolt. It must be extended using an irreversible crimp, which is what this is here. And so because I got these giant crimpers, I have to be careful that I'm able to get them into the space to use it. Now I've had these crimps for a long time. I don't use them too often, but for a job like this where I need to extend the length of my grounding electrical conductor, this is the acceptable method. And then you'll see once I'm done, I'm just going to tuck it up above where all the other branch circuits are, so it's out of the way. And so the inspector, if he wants to see it, he'll be able to see it, that it was done properly. So the next step is to terminate these new conductors, and the first thing I'm going to do is terminate the equipment grounding conductor. And there's only a few ways to do this listed in Article 250 TAC 8. Here I am drilling a hole and then using 1 1/4 threads, or I'm sorry, 1/4 20 threads to attach a 1/4-20 bolt and attach a lug to mechanically connect my equipment grounding conductor. Anytime you are connecting an equipment grounding conductor or a grounding electrical conductor, these are the 8 ways you must attach those conductors. The thread forms and I attach the 1/4-20 bolt to the lug, and that's how we mechanically attach it to the enclosure. And remember, what we're doing here is we're separating or isolating our equipment grounding conductors from our grounded neutral conductors, okay? And so inside, I've been over this before, the grounded neutral conductor is a current carrying conductor in most cases. Now there are some exceptions, which we're not going to get into in this video, where you do not count that as a neutral conductor. But for the most part, the grounded neutral conductor, and the majority of the time, is a current carrying conductor. And the neutral current will knock you on your ass just as well as a ungrounded conductor will, should you connect that to ground. So we're isolating it here so we don't have any objectionable current flow, Article 250 Tax 6, flowing on our equipment grounding conductors or any of our piping or anything that's grounded within the house. Terminating these conductors means that I'm getting close to the end, and we are getting close to the end of this video. If you do like this video, do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're so inclined to see more, subscribe. Coming up on 30,000 subscribers, and that's really exciting for me. I work as hard as I possibly can on this YouTube channel, and to devote a lot of the work that I do on this channel to educating younger electricians coming up, or maybe even just do-it-yourselfers that want to do this work the right way. So I appreciate you guys coming back and watching these videos. So there you can see the lug that was bonded to the enclosure, and there's our grounded neutral conductor, our 2 new hots, and finally here on the outside, now that I've done the inside and we're done out there, done down in the basement, we come outside, we're going to connect all of our grounding electrode conductors. They're going to be attached to the ground bar, which is of course bonded to our grounded neutral inside this automatic transfer switch. Of course, once my final connections are made, before I energize the electrical work here, I'm just going to check for any short circuits, any continuity that shouldn't be there, before I go ahead and put the meter in. And yes, I do understand the danger in putting a live meter with live conductors. This is why I'm checking it before I put the meter in. Once I put the meter in, then the load side of the meter lugs are live, and so is the incoming line side to our automatic transfer switch. And then once I energize the transfer switch, there should be power downstairs at our panel. We'll go downstairs, we'll turn on all of the circuit breakers, and that'll be the end of the job. We will be coming back. I will be coming back to this job in the next couple weeks to be there when the plumber's there hooking up his gas line for this generator. And then at that time, we'll set the generator permanently, and we'll also wire up the generator and do a load test on that day. Hi, this is Ron from Classic Electric. YouTube thinks that you'll like these 2 videos on the screen, so go ahead and check them out. Don't forget to leave a comment, like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.